I love walking in cities. It is like a meditation for me, freeing my brain to see things that would otherwise go unnoticed. Every city has different colors, different smells, different sounds, a unique, recognizable presence. We take for granted ordinary urban details, and they enter our consciousness subliminally as we try to make sense out of this chaos. And so we become aware of the city's unique pulse. When I moved into my neighborhood in Brooklyn a few years ago, I was absolutely struck by the richness that I found on the walls of every building. I was struck by the inventiveness, the variety, the irreverence, the humor, and I loved the way this showed a personal appropriation of the city by the people who lived there. A few years ago, I began a creative collaboration with an innovative fashion designer whose boutique atelier is in my neighborhood. So I provide the printed fabric with my compositions, and she translates them into her original shirt or vest or reversible raincoat lining. Wearing these compositions on one's body conjures up a very personal sense of owning the city. So wear the city, feel the city, be that city. For as long as I can remember, I have looked at the world through multiple perspectives. Only as time, broken down into moments, captured one after the other. I remember a summer on the tiny island of Ventotene when I found myself on a terrace overlooking a small volcanic beach. I had time to kill, and I started tracking the rhythm of the white waves crashing to the shore, that frontier between water and land, and the movement of people moving in and out of the water. The beginning of this particular work, organizing sequences, accumulating them to make some sense, started with taking the pulse, the rhythm of very ordinary things surrounding me. So clearly the most accessible things were nature all around, trees, water, etc. Actually, it involves all my senses, like antennas, working together to capture the essence of a certain subject. And rhythm is the key to understanding what it's about. I feel like sometimes I'm dancing with the subject, catching its heartbeat through the accumulation of sequential details. I like to create paintings with my work, and one of the interests of working with sequences is that I can work quickly and quite large. And in fact, I go around collecting with my camera. It's simply an excuse to collect textures and colors of different things that I find in everyday reality. But then the compositions create the patterns, create this rhythm that I find so interesting. It's important to be prepared because beauty can be found in unexpected places. And, even a still life of the most ordinary object comes alive when looked at rhythmically. I was working on natural rhythms. I was very sensitive to the rhythmic quality of the surroundings I was in. And I started between the lines when I was in Japan photographing a forest and really finding myself mesmerized by the discrete lines and the silences between them. And finally, I realized I could do this by using books or files, essentially recreating the more abstract concept of lines, being interrupted by silences and creating a kind of music for the eyes, a kind of musical rhythm that allows me to work on a much more abstract patterning thanks to, sequential accumulation as usual. After a first phase where intuition reigns comes a second phase where the work involves consciously organizing and revealing a pattern within the captured element. I used to compose my work in long photo strips, mounting thousands of photos by hand, even for large installations. In the case of Marea, I filled the gallery's unusual project space with large waves of books unfurling towards the viewer. In the background, you could hear the sound of waves mixed with the sound of my breathing.